All right, now we'll get started.
Phew. Eating an airhead.
Yeah, now we'll get started in three, two, and one. Hello and welcome to the Wise Guys Podcast. I'm your host, Brady Fitzgerald, joined as always by my co-host, Chris Hagan.
How you guys doing?
Doing well, Chris. It's been a week, sadly, but we have a lot of stuff to do before the off season starts, or before the regular season starts, mind you. Um, And today we're previewing the NFC and AFC North. We're going to try to zigzag from bottom to top from what we expect. Um, but AFC or NFC North is pretty up in the air. So if your team is started, don't be offended because we don't act, these aren't our rankings or what we're predicting. It's just how they landed last year, I guess. Um, but to get started, an easy one to get started off with, the worst team in all of these in both of these divisions, maybe possibly the NFL, the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, it's not a fun place to get started. I mean, there's
There's
one fun
intrigue.
talking. That's the quarterback
Yes, there's intrigue
because
in this
it's
quarterback room and in this team,
yeah,
but
it's definitely is one of the best quarterback rooms that we've seen in our time as NFL fans. I mean,
yep.
you've got obviously the ageless. Well, some quarterbacks played at 40, but I'll call Joe Flacco an ageless wonder.
Oh yeah.
Um, I mean, 2 seasons ago, this guy was the comeback player of the year and led the Browns to the playoffs.
Mhm.
Obviously, it was not that Joe Flacco last year, but he's back. Got Kenny Pickett, who's now on his third NFL team, who they traded for. And then obviously you've got the two draft guys, Dylan Gabriel, who, from everything I've read, people have no confidence in him as an NFL quarterback. And then Shadur, who I don't think we really need to explain why he's a fascinating player.
And
But all
it's
those guys
funny.
in one room, and they can't carry four quarterbacks,
Well, let me let me
right?
let me up it up. Not only do they have all four of those players, but they also have Snoop Huntley, Pro Bowler. Tyler Huntley is on the
They
Cleveland
do.
Browns. Yes. He's a part of that quarterback room. And so they're carrying five quarterbacks right now. It's as you said, going into the draft, I had no faith. I don't think anyone had a lot of faith that Dylan Gabriel was even going to be a fifth round pick or a fourth round pick, whatever he was. And we both had Shadur as, going in the first round at some point. So there's a lot of intrigue. Their first preseason game came with a lot of hype for Shadur Sanders. He had a pedestrian like not a all right, he had an above average game for preseason against the Panthers, who led up the most points in the NFL history last year, and their backups. So it's a fascinating team. Um, they their defense when I was looking into it was worse than I thought, honestly. And there's a lot of young guys starting on their defense, and I think the reason why it's worse than I thought is because the only person that I love on the whole team is Miles Garrett, and
Yep.
he's going to be anchoring that defense. They have some pieces out there, so they might not be as terrible as I think. Like, there's a part of me that doesn't think that they're going to end like bottom of the league, but there's a they're going to be a top five worst team at least.
Yeah, I mean the defense is tricky because again, like 2 seasons ago, this was one of the best defenses in the NFL.
Yep.
That's not an exaggeration. Like as good as Flacco was, the reason they were in the playoffs was because of the defense. And then last year, it just felt like everything went wrong. You had the whole Watson thing that, like, they would start games strong defensively, and then, after a half of football where the offense couldn't move the ball 7 yards down the field, then things would kind of go off the rails. So, like, there were still signs that this defense had a pulse.
Mhm.
And now that Watson's still on that team, throw another quarterback in that quarterback room. Um, Not to even mention him. Um, but Watson is not the starting quarterback of this team. So playing for a guy like Flacco, or you know, maybe Shadur eventually takes over and gives them a spark. I think just from a morale standpoint helps the defense out. But you're right. I think it's more so they have pieces. Like I don't think this is an actually strong unit.
Mhm.
Um, I think best case scenario, they're probably like borderline top 12 defensively, whereas more likely scenario, they're average, slightly below average. Um, and their offense is going to be miserable. It's going to be so horrible. So
That's
I
the key.
just like the the two sides of the ball complement each other. And when it's a similar situation where if you're just getting nothing from your offense every week, then like it's going to be tough for this defense to keep them in games.
1,000%. And their offense, I mean, outside like even their number one wide receiver is Jerry Judy. He played well when Watson wasn't out there, and Jameis Winston
Mm.
was just hucking him the ball. And then you have Deontay Johnson, who we've talked about before. You have Cedric Tillman, who was decent in college. Then you have guys like Jamari Thrash, who I've never heard of that name besides looking at this roster. Um, DeAndre Carter, which is a bust for the Chargers. Um, David Njoku, I guess, is a solid tight end. He's been there forever, it seems like. Um, and their offensive line got worse compared to the last time Joe Flacco was here. So, and they have no running back. So, it's really it's a rough situation. Say again.
They have two running backs.
Okay, yeah,
They
they
have
have two. They
a
have
fourth round rookie,
yes, they have a fourth round rookie and they have Jerome Ford. So they have bodies in the running back room.
and maybe Jed. We don't. Nobody
Yeah,
knows, right?
no, I don't think anyone knows. Still hasn't signed his contract. Um, we don't get into
He
legal
hasn't signed his
stuff
contract
here.
because he's like being
Yes,
investigated for domestic violence. It's not
yes.
like he's holding out.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation. We try not to get into legal situations here on the pod, so that'll just be left in the corner. Do your own research if you don't know about
Uncertainty.
Quentin Jenkins. Say again.
I said it's uncertainty. We don't know what's going to
Yes.
happen. That's
Yes.
our
So
analysis.
the it's a young team. They might have some players that surprise us on the offense, but I highly doubt it. And I don't think there's a ton to talk about here. There like I guess Denzel Ward we should shout on the defense. He's a good cornerback. But he has concussion problems. I think he's had like 4 or 5 concussions already. He's kind of like Chris Olave for the Saints, the wide receiver. So it's a rough team. And
Their best linebacker JOK is also out the whole season.
yes, yeah,
It's
that's
also
and that's huge. They got to play guys like Jerome Baker. They got the second round first overall in the second round. Carson Swearensinger,
Schwessinger,
Swessinger,
Schwessinger, I think.
Swessinger. All right, and
Schwessinger.
then
Sounds
um
like you have a lisp and you're trying to say Swessinger.
yeah.
Schwessinger.
And then they have a second round or second year player, Muhammad Debate. I've never even heard of this guy. So they're young in the linebacker room. They're young on the defensive line besides Miles Garrett, and they have Denzel Ward and a bunch of other just guys out there in the secondary. So yeah, it's a rough team. I don't expect much. I don't think the NFL world expects much out of them. And I think if you're a Browns fan, you're just waiting for Shadur Sanders, right?
I think so. I mean, that's the only glimmer of hope, right? If
Hmm.
somehow you just really lucked into Shadur being an actually productive NFL quarterback. Um, yeah, there's really not much else. I mean, your other outcome is Joe Flacco is the Joe Flacco of 2 years ago, in which case you're kind of in the same boat next year. Um, I mean, it would be fun. I think it's pretty unlikely. And then Kenny Pickett, we've seen what Kenny Pickett's ceiling is. That's going 9-8 on the Steelers, and the Browns are not the Steelers.
I was gonna
So
say, and that's with the comp. I mean, and I think they have a good head coach, but that's with a competent offense around him that
mhm.
he was able to use. And I don't know. The Shedeur Sanders thing, we've already seen why he fell so far with the preseason game, all the hype that comes around him, all the media attention that comes around him, all the
Mm.
questions that get asked about him. I mean, this is the number one quarterback room that people are focusing on. And to be fair to the rest of the NFL, there's not a lot of actual QB battles that are going on within the
Mhm.
NFL.
Yeah,
So
much less a battle royale.
yeah, exactly. So and having Shedeur there
These
just
guys.
makes it elevates the media attention to an
Mhm.
astronomical amount. Um, so yeah, the Browns are going to be the Browns, and yeah, they probably will not win a lot of games here. Um, all right, let's zigzag then. We'll go across to the NFC, and I guess based off standings of last year, the worst team is the Chicago Bears.
Yep.
I think it's a good roster. The training camp news is not great. The From what I'm hearing, the Ben Johnson offense is going to take some time to get perfect, and but they have the O-line help for Caleb Williams now. They have the weapons around him. I think it's possible that they're actually sorry, I don't think it's possible that they're going to be a playoff team, but I do think if they show signs of competence and win maybe 6 or 7 games, I think that's a win for the Chicago Bears.
I don't know because like how many games did they win last year? What did they finish at? I don't know. Like at some point, the Bears need to win football games
They
because I
won
feel
5
like they've
last year.
won. Oh, they only won 5. Okay. I feel like they've won the offseason a couple times now
Mhm.
recently. Where like Justin Fields' sophomore year, where it felt like they had put some pieces around him, felt like you know they were ready to take a step. And then obviously last year, you bring in Caleb and you drafted Dunze, you get Keenan Allen, um, you've revamped the defense, and like everything seems like he's set up for success. And then 6 weeks into the season, it's oh well, they're not set up for success at all. Like the offensive line is terrible, and the coaching staff is horrible, and which those things were true, but like at what point this season are we going to sit back and say, yeah, we were wrong about the Bears offseason? You know,
Yes.
that's the side of it where like if this team finishes 6-11, then it's a failure. I think they have to win it. Like 7 is the bare minimum, and they probably need to win 8-9 games to say that like okay, this thing is moving in the right direction. Because if they only win 6 games, like how good was Caleb? 'Cause the
I think that's the key.
defense is gonna be solid. Like they
Yeah.
might not be amazing. There's definitely some questions there, but there's talent on that defense. They should be good. Um, but like if this offense doesn't perform, and I get it's like I'm sure Ben Johnson's offense is very complicated because he's a super nerd. Um, like if they don't look good the second half of the season, then where are we at with Caleb? Like I feel like there's all this noise around the Bears. That's the thing that will determine how good they are. Is how good is Caleb in year two?
I agree with that point, and I do think when I mention that signs of competence, it's gonna be from the quarterback, and you want it to be from the quarterback. And I think they start slow. They have a couple games that they look pretty rough in. That could be alarming. But I do think if they end some games where, you know, they lose by a touchdown, they lose by a field goal, and they end up with a record that doesn't look too pretty, but Caleb looks good. They've honed down on some mistakes. He starts looking like the guy from USC again. Then we can start talking about, you know, the the future of the Bears and what they're going to look like in the future. And I guess
Yeah.
the issue will be the defense isn't terribly young. Like, they have some young guys
Yeah.
on there, some young pieces, but it's set up to be like if this was the Atlanta Falcons defense, I think they're honing. I guess they also have a second year quarterback. Then so let's say this is the Chargers defense, they're honing in to win the Super Bowl. Um,
Mhm.
and they I brought in the Bears fan on Twitter to give me his thoughts, and he said that there's a lot of hype around them this year, a lot of pressure to perform and win, and he thinks that Ben Johnson is going to refresh what the team needs. Um, he said someone who's already had experience with the type of weapons that he has that he will have now. Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see. He said our schedule isn't too bad this season, and the NFC North is wide open. He thinks that the team can get to 9 to 10 wins, but he could also see them winning 5 to 7. So he was realistic about it, and he said that'll depend on the offense and the quote
Yeah,
unquote he
that
put.
range of out.
Oh, sorry, I was gonna say, and he said quote unquote bend don't break offensive line. Um, he said exactly what we were saying. We know the defense is solid, but will Caleb have enough time to become the playmaker that got him to be drafted #1 overall? And then he said only time will tell.
I mean, it's a huge unknown, and it's like by far is the biggest driver of their success this season. I do think the offensive line is interesting because it is revamped, but it's all on the interior, you know.
Yes.
So like they brought in 3 guys that are known good NFL blockers, but their tackles are okay at best, right? Like these guys aren't studs. Um, Wonder if they get hit with in this season, all of a sudden by like into this offensive line stinks and Caleb doesn't have enough time.
They that is
I'm not
the
necessarily saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that that's definitely a possibility.
yeah,
Where
and they
like I
hope.
still don't think this is the top 5 offensive line in the league or anything.
I agree with that, and I think that they hope that Darnell Wright will become the stud right tackle from what they where they drafted him. But Braxton Jones has been mediocre, been all right as their left
Yeah.
tackle, and he's starting as their left tackle yet again. So it is possible that all this interior offensive line, people think of it as it's probably the reason why they got all these guys. People think of it as the least important positions in the NFL. So yeah, they might be able to block the interior defensive line, but will they be able to block the edge rushers that come after them during the season?
Yeah. Um, the other thing is I don't love like the running game. I'm not super excited about. Like you bring back DeAndre Swift, who's just a guy who we thought had all the talent in the world, just not panned out as a good NFL back. And Roshan Johnson, who I think is decent, but like you're probably not getting a lot of production there. Um, and then you have a lot of young play like outside of DJ Moore and I guess Cole Kmet, you've got a lot of young players as weapons for Caleb. So there's definitely gonna be a learning curve with that offense. Just getting used to the way that Ben Johnson calls plays. Um, I feel like I've been very negative talking about them, but I do think 10, 11 wins is within the range of outcomes. Like if this
It's
thing does work, if Ben Johnson is the wizard that people say that he is, then I wouldn't be shocked if they have a mediocre start to the season and then really hit their stride the second half. Um, but yeah, it really all depends on Caleb.
and I do think it matters that the coaching staff is completely revamped. I mean, that coaching staff was
Mhm.
abysmal last year. It was we knew going in that it was going to be their downfall going into the year, and it ended
Yep.
being their downfall by week 8. So the it is funny that Ben Johnson gets into Detroit, immediately ships out DeAndre Swift, and then now DeAndre Swift is back with Ben Johnson. So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see how that relationship works, how they use how they use him in the running game, and as you said, he's a talented back. He had that great year with the Eagles, or 1,000 yards. He had that good year with the Eagles, um, but we haven't seen him be that #1 back that he was drafted to be in the second round. And I think there is hope for him. I think that there's a little bit of people that think that Roshan Johnson's going to be their Montgomery to
Mhm.
Swift's Gibbs, which neither player is close to the talent of the two players I just named on the Lions, but
I hate
they
when people do that. When, like you just take a guy who is at the same position for the same head coach. You're like, oh well, they basically have Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery. It's like, I mean, they have 2 men that play the same position.
Yes, and
Like,
one is bigger than the other, so yeah, you have something there.
right. But
So
yeah, it's the same thing with like, oh well, Colson Loveland is just going to be his Laporta. It's like, well,
yeah,
maybe, but he's also a rookie, and we have no idea.
yep, yep, 100%. So it is gonna be
Luther Burden is going to be what? Jameson
he's
Williams or no, Amon Ra was the
he's Amon-Ra, I
comparison.
think. I think he's the Amon-Ra. Actually, I've heard all of these guys be the Amon-Ra of this offense during this offseason. I've heard DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, and Luther Burden all being the Amon-Ra of this
Yeah,
offseason.
well, they have three sun gods then.
Yeah. So, but those three wide receivers are very good. Um, that's one of the best, I think, top three. And if Roma Dunze is a second year player, Luther Burden hasn't played a snap in the NFL besides maybe preseason. I don't even know. I didn't watch that game. So the just on paper, the way that they were drafted, the way they produced in college, and then DJ Moore, who has consistently produced in the NFL,
Yeah.
is they're on paper a very good wide receiver core. And
Mhm.
so they have the weapons around Caleb. They've now bumped up the offensive line. It's all on him to run this show. So I guess that's really the main takeaway from here, the Bears, because the rest of the roster looks pretty good. And as you said, they won the past two off seasons. So
Yeah. I will add two notes. First about the schedule. They have the third toughest schedule based on 2024 teams.
standings.
Um, and yeah, the schedule includes 10 playoff teams from last year, which is a lot. And I think that the point about the NFC North being a wide open division, I think that's encouraging in the sense of like, who knows, maybe we could go win this thing. There's not like the Lions are the favorite, but they're not maybe not a runaway favorite. Um, the problem is the reason it's wide open is because all the teams are really good.
Yeah.
It's not like the NFC South last year where it was like we don't really know who's going to win this division. They all kind of suck. It's like all of these teams are really, really good, and you have to play them 6 times a year. So that I think we might not want to judge the season based on wins, even though I said earlier they need to win a certain amount of games. I do think there's a world where they win 7 games and it's considered a successful season because it's going to be tough to make noise in that division and get into the playoffs, even if they are a good football team.
Completely agree. Um, all right. I think we've covered the Bears. I think let's zigzag
Yep.
back up. And should we go with the Steelers or the Bengals here? I think if we're going off last year's
Uh,
rankings, then it's the Bengals.
I guess Bengals. Yeah, let's do that so that we're not breaking format here.
Did they do anything in the offseason? I know they had a draft.
There
They
are a couple teams in this preview that it feels like they're pretty much the same team. The Bengals fired their defensive coordinator. I forget if
okay,
that was at the end, like during the end of last season, or if it was actually after the season. But yeah, they fired Lou Anarumo.
which 2 years ago people were raving about it. They were like, "Oh,
Yeah,
his
he's
second
like one
half
of the best defensive
adjustments."
minds in football.
Yeah,
Which I think like I blame roster construction more than coaching for how their defense has performed. Um, they did nothing. Like you're right. They re-signed Higgins and Mike Gesicki. I don't think they really did anything on the O line. They didn't really do much defensively. They just like they need their guys to be better on defense, which is not the best spot to be in going to a season where you stayed relatively healthy last year and didn't make the playoffs. But I guess they are in kind of a spot where like they made a Super Bowl what 3 years ago now, and it's a very similar team. Like you have Joe Burrow, so you're gonna have a shot,
Mhm.
but like you have to get into the playoffs to have a shot.
Mhm.
And like this defense was so awful. So I think the big change is you get a healthy Dax Hill, but like the pass rush is not great. I don't know what Trey. I'm assuming Trey Henderson will play, but he's got his contract thing. Like I don't like the D line all that much. The secondary could be better this year, but like Geno Stone, who they brought in from free agency, sucked. He's got to be better. Um, I actually think
Maybe he
their
didn't
corners.
suck because he like tied the league in picks or something with the Ravens. And picks is such a sticky stat where it doesn't
Yeah,
transfer from year to year. So it's
yeah,
not
that's
like he wasn't world breaker as a safety for the Ravens, but he had all those interceptions. He had 7 interceptions
Mhm.
the year before he signed. So it's like
Yeah.
anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I mean, that was kind of the end of my point is you're really just banking on your defense to play better. And
And you're
like,
banking on some young guys to step up.
yep,
They have Miles Murphy from the first round last year. They got my guy Demetrius Knight. He's going to be their will linebacker in from South Carolina. He was a second round pick. He went much higher than I thought he was going to go. And I think that guy's a dog. He's a little small for linebacker. I think he's like, 5'10", but he played with a lot of heart. I do think that he'll add some juice to the defense, get a lot of tackles. Um, but yeah, I mean, PJ Slayton Jr., I don't even know who that guy is. BJ Hill, like he seems like he's over the hill. Um, and the the secondary is more of the same. As you said, they get back Dax Hill, um, but there's not a lot of guys here that I'm worried about if I'm the Ravens again. Like I'm just running Derrick Henry down your throat for 500 yards in the two games that we play, and it's uh it's gonna be an issue. They just need guys to step up, as you said, and that's a hard thing to predict going into the season, and it's definitely a hard thing to just bank on when you're the Bengals.
anchor of defense wins championships, which is certainly true more years than it's not. But Patrick Mahomes has 3 Super Bowls, and they
Their
haven't had a
defenses
great
were
defense
good,
every year. Their defense is generally good, but, like, the first 2 I mean, definitely the first Super Bowl, um, like, great quarterbacks can still carry you there, and Burrow has done it. So it's almost like I don't wanna call them lazy, but it's almost like they're building this team as a fan would, or, like, as a Madden player would be like, "Just give me this loaded offense. Get me into the playoffs. I don't really care. Like, I don't care if I win 10 games or 13. Get me in and give me Joe Burrow versus anyone in the AFC, and I feel like I have a chance."
and
Like, they're gonna be playing this game for 10 years.
that's a
In
great
one of
great
these
point.
years, they're probably gonna win the Super Bowl.
They are building
So
it like a Madden
I
team
don't love
where
the way they're constructed, but I do think that's how they operate.
and when you play Madden and you play college football, you really just want to get that one stop on defense, and then and
Yeah,
you expect
right.
yourself to score every time, and you're like, if I can just score every
Yep,
time and get one stop on defense, we're good to go. And as you said, they might have been one game away from they were one game away from the playoffs, and that was week one against the Patriots. And so this year they're starting
yeah.
a different approach. They're playing
They
Joe
lost
Burrow in the
8 points to
preseason. They're
the
Yeah, they're playing Joe Burrow in the preseason. They're trying to get him warmed up, ready to go. I don't know if that's going to work, or I doubt it's going to hurt them. But as long as he doesn't get injured during the preseason, um, the
Mhm.
it's definitely got to add something to it. And hopefully they don't start slow like they normally do. But they got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown has come into his own. The They have Mike Gesicki, they have Noah Fant, and their O line. They put a lot of money into it after the Super Bowl loss. So they as you said, it's 2 sides of a coin and one coin it's like Two-Face. It's like the one coin like one side actually, well, Two-Face has the same side of each coin, but he has one face that's all messed up, that's the defense, and he has one face that's still Harvey Dent, and that's and that's the offense. So it's gonna be interesting to see this team yet again. They're gonna be in a lot of shootouts, and they're just looking for that one, maybe 2 stops a
Yeah,
game where they can get the other team to punt. Or maybe they get an interception. And that's really all they need against any middling team, at least. Any team that can't, I mean, most teams can't cover Jamar Chase, but um, any team that can has a weaker defense, they should be able to shoot out with them and just win the game. Like they start out against the Browns. that offense is going to give them plenty of opportunities for their defense to look good. Um, and like the Jaguars, he's got to get a couple stops there, and they can blow them out. Their defense isn't great. But then when they play playoff teams again, like I'm gonna be nervous. Like Vikings, Broncos, Lions, Packers, all in a row. And then you get into a divisional game with the Steelers. So they're gonna have to win these freebies, and they're gonna have to win week one. And like even against the Patriots, like I don't think they're gonna beat them in November. If this was earlier in the season, that'd be nice. Um, but they need to win. They need to win that game. They need to win against the Dolphins. They need to win against the Browns in the last season or last game of the season, and the Cardinals in the second to last. Like they need every win they're going to get because the Ravens aren't going to be afraid of them. They're not going to turn over the ball what they need, at least as much as they need them to, and they're going to be able to shoot out with them during the whole game. Same with the Bills. Um, I don't know about the Steelers, but when you play the Broncos and Lions, the Vikings, Packers, all those guys are going to be able to keep up with points. So
Yeah, I mean they're an anomaly of an NFL team for sure
completely agree.
because it really does feel like again those games where you say teams are going to be able to keep up with them and like there's teams that aren't going to be scared of them. They're also going to beat teams that they should not beat that are more talented than them. Um, just because of how many points they're going to be able to put up. Um, and I do think like once you get into the playoffs, like let's say the Bills are the 1 seed and they've got a team rolling in that first divisional weekend, like if you're ranking the teams of who you don't want to see coming into your house, if you're Buffalo, like it's
Oh, they're the
Mahomes
scariest
one,
wild card team.
and then it's Burrow too. Like
Yeah.
they don't, no one wants to see them. Um, but yeah, you're right. Like they have to take. There can't be any losses to the Patriots again this year. It can't happen. They don't have that margin for error.
No, because we saw it last year, and they had
Yeah.
they played with that margin of error, and they missed out of the playoffs by one game. So it's it's a it's a tough game that they're playing, but they know I think they know what they're in for. Um,
Mhm.
and it's funny because like this is the cheapest NFL team that is run. Like, they don't sign any free agents. They're not even paying Trey Hendrickson what he wants and what he deserves. And it's it's an interesting way that the team is built. But I love the offense, man. The offense looks fantastic. And the defense just scares me on every level.
Yep. I will also add about that preseason, the thing about like, getting Burrow reps during the preseason. They got shredded during that preseason. They were down 24-14 at halftime.
Yeah, it was bad. That was with their starting off or defense out there.
Yes.
And it's the preseason, so we won't get too much
Right.
into
Yeah.
account.
But it is funny.
Yes, it is. Um, all right, let's move on. Going up the ranks, and that brings us to the Packers, right?
Accurate. Yeah. 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 Yep.
I think they got a solid O line. I think their weapons are thin with are thinning with the injuries that have happened, but they have a high upside rookie. I think it's Drew Love or Jordan Love. Sorry, geez, Drew Love. I think he's talented, but it's kind of all on him again. It's kind of like the Bears in this scenario where it's all on him to make this go. They like their running back's good. Josh Jacobs is great, but he's not going to be a Derrick Henry or he's not going to get 1,300 yards or 1,500 yards. He's just going to be what kind of we expect him to be. And I just feel like Jordan Love needs to take a step up if I want them to take the Packers seriously. Even if they make the playoffs, I they're not like the Bengals. I wouldn't be scared to play them. And I feel like they would make mistakes. And I like their defense. They have a lot of guys, but only McKinney is the guy that I love on that defense. Um, I love the coaching staff, and somehow I've convinced myself that Golden is gonna be amazing.
I have two. And I think it's partly because he's going into this wide receiver room where they've just been itching for somebody to break out as wide receiver one. And the best that they've gotten is like 4 wide receiver twos, if that.
And now they're all
Um,
injured. Like, that's what scared me at first.
it's
I was like, he's just going into a hodgepodge, and now they're all injured. So,
yeah,
like, he has
yeah.
the
Well,
limelight.
and he's probably the most talented one.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I like in fantasy, I love Golden, but I'm just buying into all the hype. So he's a rookie wide receiver. We don't know what we're gonna get there, and like I don't know how much they're gonna air the ball out either. Like with Josh Jacobs, like they're gonna feed him, and you have a solid O line. So like I don't think they're gonna ask Jordan Love to do a whole lot. Like they didn't really last year, and it worked for them. They made the playoffs. So I think like to a degree, it's on Jordan Love, but at the same time, it's not like, they're gonna throw the ball 40 times a game and he just needs to be better. It's like they're gonna be able to win games without him putting up numbers. Um, I think the big thing offensively is like they can't making mistakes, like you said.
Mhm.
Like they can't be fumbling the ball, they can't be dropping passes. I heard a stat earlier today that they dropped the most third down passes in the NFL, which is crazy.
Yeah, I
Um,
heard about that
and like
recently.
you're having Matthew Golden, a rookie receiver, come in to fix that problem for you. Which, like, again, we are both high on Golden. He might be awesome. And then we're having a totally different conversation 10 weeks from now about this Packers offense. But if he does, like, he's a rookie and he's probably going to take his lumps and he's going to have weeks where he does rookie things. Your offense didn't get any better. Like they signed a guard, signed Aaron Banks.
Mhm.
That's a move. Um, But again, like this is another team that basically did nothing this
Yeah.
offseason.
Yeah,
Um,
it's pretty much the same team besides Golden.
the defense, they're they're similar on both sides of the ball, where like they have a bunch of guys, and like all of the guys on their team you would want on your team.
Yeah.
Like they're productive NFL players, but they don't have dudes. Like
Yep.
the closest thing they have to a dude on the defensive side is probably Xavier McKinney, who
Oh, yeah.
picked off like 34 passes last year. Um, but they have all of these guys who are like, they're just names and they sound good. Like Rashawn Gary sounds awesome,
Oh, yeah, and they're all
but it's like
drafted
him,
high. Luke Van Ness.
it's Van Ness with your pass rushers, and it's like, I don't know, like Van Ness has got to do something this year for them to have an effective pass rush. The secondary, I think, is interesting because you lost Jair Alexander, but at the same time, he didn't play a whole lot last year anyway, and it seemed like things were off there. So I think they could be okay, but it's definitely a suspect unit. Like Nate Hobbs is their number one, who's good, but then they have Keyshawn Nixon and big question marks. So outside of McKinney, I don't love the secondary. And if you
And
don't have a great pass rush either, that makes me nervous. But at the same time, it's like they're the Packers, and for some reason they'll have a top 12 defense just because.
I agree, and I think it's part of the coaching staff, and I think we should give some a little credit to Kenny Clark. He's always been a dude for a while, but he's a defensive tackle as a dude, and a defensive tackle that's not Aaron Donald is just another defensive tackle. Like he's a good defensive tackle, but if you're not
Yeah,
Aaron Donald, um, getting all those sacks, then you're just kind of you're there for run defense. You're there for maybe like he got 7.5 sacks 2 years ago, and that was the highest he's ever gotten. But
yeah,
he's a solid player, just not, not a superstar. And it's that's a lot of this team is that it's solid as and you've already
yeah.
mentioned that, but a lot of good players and a lot of young players too. Like a lot of
I
their
think they
team
are
is
the
young.
youngest team in the NFL.
I knew they were last year, and I'm guessing since they didn't do much, it's probably the
Yeah,
same.
right. They did
So
nothing but get a year older.
yeah, and maybe that helps for some of these guys.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
It's I heard a stat their highest target percentage wide receiver was do you wanna guess actually? Out of Reed,
Nice targeted
Watson
receiver.
yeah, like, target percentage, I guess that just means out of the percent of times they throw, like, this is he's going to this guy, yada, yada percent.
Yeah, I like when they're on the field or just overall.
I think overall, and
I
it's
want
I'll
to see
give you
Jaden Reed when he's on the field, but
it's
maybe Dobbs.
it's actually Wicks.
Oh, it's Wicks.
He was
That
targeted
would have been my
16%, and it was 16%. So they just threw
Ooh.
it to everybody. And the now that they're all injured, it's like, all right, well, Golden's got to get to 20%, right? Like we got to get Golden to 20. Um,
For Tucker Craft.
I don't know what Tucker Craft's one was. I know it was out of the wide receivers, so I didn't
Okay.
know what his thing was. And as you mentioned, Tucker Craft and Luke Musgrave, both fun tight ends that can be
Mhm.
productive. Another two set of very young tight
Good
ends.
guys.
Yeah. So it's it's funny because like Dobbs was productive when he was out there. Then he had like they like got mad at him or something in the middle of the season. They
Mhm.
suspended him. Then
He
he got
tweaked something too.
yeah. Then he tweaked something. And Jalen Reed, he's not out there for two wide receiver sets. I did not realize that. If it's
No,
two wide
yeah.
receivers, yeah, he's not out there. And he's in a boot right now. Um, and Watson's out the whole season. They got Mecole Hardman, but that's just a name that people know because he was on the Chiefs. Um, and I don't know. I like their running. Like Josh Jacobs is good. I think Emmanuel Wilson had a good like little. It wasn't really a 1-2 punch. It was like a one and a half punch. With them, but whenever he was in there, I feel like he was productive. Um, they got a Gamecock and Marshawn Lloyd after that. Got a little shout out there. They got a Gamecock on both sides of the ball. Um, I will say though, they have one of my favorite players in the NFL, not because of production, just because of in what he would have been in video games and what he was supposed to be, and that's Isaiah Simmons, the the hybrid linebacker safety that
I did not
just
even realize he was on the Packers.
yep,
Yeah, there he is.
8th overall pick by the Cardinals. He was supposed to be
Yep.
so good. He got a lot of tackles in the last 2 seasons with the Cardinals, but completely fell off afterwards. Um, but yeah, just one of those guys that I will never forget because he was so good in college. And I just thought he was gonna be just change the league. I thought he was gonna completely change the league.
I remember there being rumors that Ron Rivera liked Simmons over Chase Young that year,
I wouldn't be
which I
surprised.
guess wouldn't have really mattered either way. But
Yeah, if
yeah,
you're
he
ever
was
bored,
talked about like that.
that's one of those college tapes that you throw on at a pregame. You're about to go to the
Unbelievable.
bars. You're about to go to a party. Isaiah Simmons highlight tapes from Clemson.
Yep.
Just
This whole
absolutely.
line or
Yep. All right. I think that covers the Packers. What do we I think they can make the playoffs. I do think that
I'd be surprised if they didn't, I think.
okay. All right.
I'd be
Is that
surprised if they won more than a game though.
is that because yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. I'd be shocked if they won 2 games in the playoffs. Is that because of the next NFC North team we're going to talk about, the Vikings, or is that um just because of the state of the NFC itself that you see them making the playoffs?
Uh yeah, I think more so like I don't think they're gonna win the division.
Mhm.
I think it's more so like they've made the playoffs the last 2 years and it's the same team. And you're right, like I feel like there's not a ton of teams stepping up in the NFC that I'm scared about.
I agree. All right. Zigzagging. We're going to the Steelers. And I was surprised how much I liked their roster, honestly. The and it's the same roster as last year, switching in Rodgers with I mean, besides the wide receivers. Um
Yep.
they need a wide receiver
Running back.
too. Oh, and running back. That's true. They need a wide receiver too, though. I'm not the biggest Calvin Austin fan. Bobby Trees is
Roman
there.
Wilson.
Um, huh?
Roman Wilson.
Roman Wilson. It's funny. He's just a young guy that I don't know if Rodgers is ever going to throw to because Rodgers is like that. Um, and their defense. I mean, their defense is pretty good. I like Cam Hayward. I like J.J. Watt. I like their draft pick and Jack Sawyer, um, out of Ohio
Derek
State.
Harmon.
Yeah, Derek Harmon's good.
Your
Um,
D line is deep.
yes, their D line is deep, and they have. I mean, Patrick Queen played well for them last year. Um, Peyton Wilson.
Peyton Wilson, wasn't he a wise guy of the draft
I think he might have been.
2 years ago?
Yeah, I think he was. It would have been last
Or
year,
not?
and he had a
Yeah.
decent rookie season. Um,
Mhm.
and then they completely redid their secondary. Darius
Mhm.
Slay, Joey Porter Jr., now Jalen Ramsey, and
Bit of the
they
unction.
say again.
That it's a bit of an unction
It is a bit of an
at
unction.
corner,
Yes. And that
at
could come
least the
back to
top two
bite
guys.
them if they don't have the juice that they used to have. But and their safeties aren't great. Deshaun Elliott has been all right. They do have Chuck Clark behind him, who's all right. Um, Juan Thornton. I recognize that name, but I don't. I yeah, he was from KC. Um, and he's yeah, I guess he's a solid safety, nothing special. Um, but their defensive front is going to be scary. And their
Mhm.
linebacking crew is going to be solid. They also have Cole Holcomb, Commanders legend, maybe football team legend.
I thought he was. I thought there was an issue with Holcomb.
I'm not sure. I haven't been
I don't know.
keeping track of my Cole Holcomb analysis.
I for some reason I googled him the other day. I think because I was doing the Immaculate Grid and there
Oh,
was
okay.
Commanders Steelers on there, so I looked
Yeah,
up
he had
Cole
a
because
bad
I was
season
like,
last
man,
year. He
I
only
miss
played
Cole.
8 games, so
Yeah, he got hurt.
mhm.
Now, yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen with him.
But he's the
Yeah,
backup linebacker anyways.
yeah. That front seven is nasty, and I think like the Steelers are so fascinating because their splits with TJ Watt on and off the field are insane. Like I don't know what I know the numbers off the top of my head, but when he's out there, they are absolutely one of the best defenses in the NFL.
Oh yeah,
So
he's a
like
game wrecker.
if you get a full season of TJ Watt or even like 13 games, the defense is going to be really, really good.
Hmm.
And like I said, they're deep. It's not like it's just him. They have Highsmith, who missed time last year. They have Herbig. They drafted Sawyer. And now you upgraded defensive tackle too. Like if Harmon is impactful right away. So it's scary. And when you have like competent players in the secondary with like Ramsey and Slay are not, it's not the 2018 Pro Bowl. Like these guys are not amazing, but they're going to be competent pieces. So like they should be gross on that side of the ball, honestly. It's
Yeah, and it's the
there are
same.
way more questions on.
Yes, and it's the same story though as we've always gotten with the Steelers. Um,
Yeah,
I do think that their offensive line it's very young. It's a very young offensive line. And I think that's very important for Aaron Rodgers that they stay healthy and they can block for him because he's 41 or 40 and they they need to figure out the running game. I think Caleb Johnson is a good running back. I just think it's going to take some time for him to get into mojo. Um, and I think him and Rodgers and DK Metcalf being him uh will be a good connection, and then they have a lot of question marks at wide receiver too. So the offense, there's a potential that the offense could be very bad, and then there's also a potential where the offense can be, you know, keep them afloat, which is what it has been for again since Roethlisberger's left.
yeah. So I don't want to oversimplify things and just say like Rodgers is Favre, but the Favre trajectory was go to the Jets, suck, and then go to the Vikings, and they made an NFC Championship, and he was awesome. Like he threw that rushing interception in the NFC Championship game, but like that Vikings team was awesome,
Yeah, oh yeah.
and the trajectory has already been a little bit too similar for me to just write off Aaron Rodgers and say, you know, he's cooked. Last year was a disaster. I don't think he was that bad last year. And I think all of the off the field stuff makes him seem worse.
Yeah.
Um, but I think in a bit of a more competent organization and with a coach like Tomlin who is not going to sign off on Aaron Rodgers if he doesn't actually believe that he's got good football left in, you know? So I don't know. Because I guess the other argument, I'm just like speaking or thinking out loud here now. is that they did the same thing with Russell Wilson last year. We're like, let's take a shot on this guy who has had a rough stop. He's towards the end of his career. So I don't know. They might look exactly the same on offense as they did last year. And I don't know how big of an upgrade Metcalf is from Pickens. He's an upgrade, but like maybe not to the point where it completely changes the offense. I think that's unlikely. So again, they're kind of like the Bears, where it really depends on the offense. Like I think they could
Hmm.
be a playoff team with how good this defense is, but in terms of ceiling, like we don't know. Rodgers might be cooked.
I do want to pause on the Tomlin if he thinks he's a like thinking he's a competent quarterback. They had no other options.
Well, they could have kept Justin Fields or Russell
I
Wilson.
think they I think they tried to keep Justin Fields, but they didn't want to pay him 20 million. And then they didn't want to keep Russell Wilson. I think they just didn't want to keep him. Um but and I guess they could have gotten Shadur.
They could have traded for Gino. They could have been that team.
Yes. All right. All fair points. All fair points. But I guess it ended up where he had no other option. It was Mason Rudolph or nothing.
They were
Um
made for each other. And they
yes.
maybe they got caught holding the bag and they like he wasn't their first option and they were in the race for like the Commanders with their head coach where they ended up with Dan Quinn and probably was not their first choice and then they were just like, "Oh yeah, that's what we wanted all along."
Yeah.
That's also very possible and there's no way to say. But yes, that's fair.
But I do think having Tomlin there, an adult as their head coach, is gonna matter for Rodgers. He's actually gonna listen to what Tomlin suggests instead of calling audibles, um, doing
One
what
would
he
hope.
wants to do. Yes, one would hope. And
Is Arthur Smith still the offensive coordinator?
say again, yeah, Arthur Smith is the offensive coordinator, and that's why
Those
they
two
have
guys.
4 tight ends. The it's gonna be an interesting team because Rodgers did have a decent season. But he likes to play out of the shotgun. He's like the Big Ben of the last couple years where he doesn't wanna get hit, he doesn't wanna be under center, he doesn't wanna do the drop back, and I think that changes the offense for what you wanna do, but, they know that going in. It's not like, people acted like he signed so late in the offseason. He signed in, like, what? He signed in April, March? Maybe not April, but, like
Oh, it was late.
but it wasn't like it was last week.
Why? No, but I remember having a conversation. Was it like mandatory OTAs or something where it was like, do we think Rogers is going to show up to OTAs and he hadn't even signed with the team yet?
I thought it might have been voluntary, but it was the start of OTAs at some point. So yeah, you
Yeah.
have a good point. But it's not like they've had the past month and a half at least to figure out what we're gonna do. And
Right.
they
Yeah.
knew he was coming anyways, so they probably planned the game plan around him. So it's gonna be an interesting offense. Um, I think it's gonna be a little exciting just because of how much Rodgers is in the news and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
they have that going for them. And honestly, they're gonna be 9-8. They're gonna be 9-8. They're gonna be maybe 10-7, and then they're probably gonna lose the playoff game that they go into. It's the same formula. It's the same team, same coaching staff. Um, they're another team that hasn't didn't change too drastically besides the quarterback and wide receiver position.
That is the thing is like for how much change it felt like they've had, they probably are like the most likely outcome here is they go 9-8 and make the wild card, and go to Baltimore and get some.
I completely agree with that.
Like I will predict something different when I see it, but we've been right about this for 7 years already.
Yep.
Like you said, it's not an exaggeration.
No, it's been
It's
the
like
easiest
are
bet
going to
in
win the
sports.
AFC West.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been the easiest bet in sports is that they go 9-8. Um, all right. I think we've exhausted ourselves on the Steelers. I think that's pretty solid on them. Um, we got 3 teams left. Next one being the Vikings, which it's funny. It's funny how these divisions, when we did the AFC East, we were talking about by the time we were at the third one and the NFC East, we were like, man, these teams are very similar in how they are constructed and what their problems will be. And the Vikings are no different because JJ McCarthy is good, then they could have a high-powered offense, They again, wide receiver 2 position's iffy. Jordan Addison suspended for 4 games? Not
Yeah,
6,
but
right?
when he's back, he's a good wide receiver too.
Yes, of course.
Like the other question mark, it's not even a question mark. We know how long he's going to miss.
Yep.
I guess it's does he step right into that role, and is he effective when he gets back?
Yeah,
Like
and
that's the
then
only question.
those 4 games, they'll probably if they're gonna get JJ McCarthy used to it, they're gonna run the football a lot. They have Aaron Jones and now Jordan Mason, and they still have TJ Hawkinson. They got a better offensive line. Um, their defense is great. Their defense is great. I mean, they got Javon Hargrave, they got Jonathan Allen, they got sorry, Van Ginkel. Evan Pace was good. Um, their corners are all right, maybe not great because their corners are a little iffy. Byron
Yeah,
Murphy
the
Jr.
front
is
seven
decent.
is good, and it's a Brian Flores defense, so like they're going to get to the quarterback. Like
It's
that's kind of a no-brainer. But it does worry me a little bit with like how out of nowhere they were last year. And I guess they did make like they signed Grenard and Van Ginkel. They also lost Daniil Hunter, so like I don't know how much more talent they added last year. And it just felt like all of a sudden they were a really good defense. So that makes me a little bit nervous. And the Byron Murphy thing, like he had a career year, they re-signed him. But like, is he that good again? The other corners are shaky. So I don't know. I think I'm a little bit lower on their defense this year. Just relative. I don't like. I think they'll be fine. I just would be surprised if they were as successful as they were last year. And I
yeah, I
guess
think
that
it's
can be said for this team. They won what, like 14 freaking games.
yeah,
There's
and they
no
will
way that.
not be winning 14 games this year. Like that's a given. They're not going to be winning 14 games. I'd be shocked if they won 12. And I do think that if it's all big if JJ McCarthy can be can be a good distributor of the ball, can throw downfield, can make the right plays. I mean, we saw it in Michigan. He's one of those guys that's kind of a winner. So if he can just propel them and put them in the position to win games, he doesn't have to be groundbreaking. He doesn't have to be world shattering.
Yep.
Um, but he needs to be safe with the ball. He needs to just get it to Jettas when he needs to when it's a third down. Um, and they just need to keep the running attack going. So I think they have a plan. Like it's a good plan. They have a good coaching staff. They have a great defensive coordinator, and we saw Sam Darnold come in here and have a career year. There's a there's a possibility that they can work that same magic with JJ McCarthy. And I don't even know, probably not this year, but later in his career, have a season like Sam Darnold had last year.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about how important situation is with quarterbacks, and it really doesn't get much better than what the Vikings have right now. Like Justin Jefferson is probably the second best receiver in football.
Mhm.
Um, Kevin O'Connell is I don't I want to rank the coaches just off the dome, but he's a very good NFL coach and an offensive minded one at that. They have a good line. They have probably two running backs who are good, and they have a tight end in Hawkinson who's like going to be a super valuable weapon for a young quarterback. So you're right. Like the weapons are there. It's a good situation. And McCarthy's not a guy who we're worried about. Like he just doesn't seem like a boomer bust guy. He seems like a guy who can step in and run an NFL offense. We don't know what the ceiling looks like, but you have to think that there's a floor there where like as talented as they are on offense, they're going to be probably above average, even with a rookie quarterback who we haven't seen play an NFL game. That's my, I mean, like, obviously there is unknown with McCarthy, but like, that's the way that I see him. I don't think he's going to be exciting, but like, Darnold wasn't exciting. They won
Mhm.
14 games. Um, Again, don't think that's going to happen again. And he probably will not put up the numbers that Darnold did, but definitely like a year or two down the line, I think that's very possible.
Yeah, and as you said, Darnold was a bust. He was almost out of the
Yeah,
league if this didn't
he's a
work.
bust in four different places.
Yeah, and now he had to. now he got paid by the Seahawks because of what Kevin O'Connor did. So it's it's gonna be an interesting team. I think this is gonna be. I said it about the Steelers. This is gonna be a fun team though. I think JJ McCarthy, seeing him out there, like basically a rookie, didn't play a single snap of regular season last year. So and yeah, we just went through. I was just gonna go through all the weapons again, but we already did that. So they have a beefed up offensive line. They have the weapons. They have the workings of a defense, and they have the defensive coordinator behind it. Um,
Yeah.
where I think yeah, if that secondary plays well, they could definitely win, 10 games. They could win 11. Um, all right,
I feel
Ravens
like
turn.
every time you talk about the Vikings, it's like you just say the weapons over and over again.
Yeah, it matters. I mean, it does it yes. And you have a good point, but it matters a lot, especially
Yeah.
for a young quarterback. All right, the Ravens. This Ravens roster, they deserve to get over the hump. I mean, this Raven roster is stacked. Um, the holes are: is Kyle Van Noy going to age? Is their free safety spot too young? And that's all my notes. That's all I got here. That's the I don't see what, like, of course something will go wrong. Something will go wrong in the playoffs. But there's no reason why this team shouldn't win 14 games. Um yeah, it's incredible. It's an incredible roster.
It's health. Like, do they stay healthy? We've seen the Ravens just get decimated by injuries before, and like I honestly think that that's the only way that they aren't one of the best teams in football this year. Um, like you're coming into the season and your expectation is you're going to compete for the 1 seed. Like if you're not the 1 seed, you're disappointed. Um, it does feel like at some point, and I think we had this exact same conversation with the Bills. Like at some point, they have to win. Right?
Yeah.
Problem is they're in the same conference as the Bills,
And
and they're
Mahomes.
just happens to be Patrick Mahomes in there. And we just talked about Joe Burrow in the same conference, who nobody wants to see in the playoffs. But it does feel like this. Them and the Bills are the most talented teams in the NFL. I don't think that's a tough argument. I think you could throw the Lions in there, and obviously the Eagles, and like those are the four most talented teams. But like, I mean, even the holes that you identified, like if Van Noy ages, there's a very easy solution, and that's they get Mike Green, who was supposed to go in the first round in the second round. Like if he plays like a first rounder, like he's supposed to be, then boom, problem solved.
Yep.
And like I don't know, if the safety position looks too young, then you just move Kyle Hampton back to safety like you did last year. So stay healthy. That's
Yep. And it's funny, like this is the best secondary in the league. They have Jair Alexander, Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, and then their backups, DJ Tampa, who was supposed to go very high in last year's draft. Um, they have Chibi Awuzie, who was the starting corner for the Bengals for a while. Or maybe I know he was starting for the Cowboys as well, so maybe not a while on the Bengals, but he was the starter there. And then they have Trenton Simpson. I know it's not secondary, but Cal Van Noy, Roquan Smith, Travis Jones, Matabuke. All these guys are phenomenal defensive players, and they have the coaching staff that's been there for 12 years. They have two tight ends that would be starting on other teams. They have the DeAndre Hopkins old head where they can throw it up to him in the red zone, and they have Derrick Henry. And that we didn't even name Lamar Jackson.
right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. If you throw JJ McCarthy on this team, they're probably a playoff team.
Yeah.
But yeah, you tell them if you.
You could throw Baker Mayfield and I'd still think they could win the Super Bowl.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Baker had a good year last year. I don't know if he's the best example.
I just picked he's good. I was gonna pick like a middle of the pack kind of quarterback. Not a I wasn't saying
Yeah.
Baker's bad. What about Jared Goff? You think Jared Goff? I
I think so.
yeah. It's
What about Dak? Tua?
Tua. Let's not get crazy here with Tua.
Where we go.
Yeah, I
That's
think
a
that
fun.
might be.
What quarterbacks could win Super Bowls on the most talented NFL teams? Not Lamar Jackson though so far. So that is
No.
interesting that we we hyped them up this much, and they're yet to make a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson. Um, they haven't beaten the Bills and they haven't beaten the Chiefs.
Got to make it over the hump this year. And it's
That's
funny because
something.
I feel like it's the same discussion every year where it's if it's not this year, then when's it going to be? And then they just keep getting
Mhm.
better and keep getting better players on their
I
roster.
was thinking of their like salary cap table because I just didn't understand how they could get so much better after being so good the last 2 years. And they have $14 million in cap space. I don't know where the money's going. And Lamar's cap hit the next 2 years is like $75 million. So they're gonna have to figure that out. But I'm sure some sort of restructuring will just make it go away because that's the NFL that we live in now.
Yeah.
But I like some of these teams, the way that they construct their roster, like them and the Eagles do this with the cap space where it's like they're talented every single year and they have like 1 or 2 years where they're quote unquote rebuilding and they still make the playoffs, and then the next year they're reloaded like this, and it doesn't make sense to me. Like, why more teams aren't able to figure this out.
Just good
I guess
GMing.
getting the good guys in the building to begin with is the hard part,
Yeah.
and then you just let the accountants go to work.
hmm
Um, and they've had a good football ops department since the team moved to Baltimore.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say other than there are very few holes on this team. I guess the guards, if you want to nitpick, I think that was our concern last year. It didn't really matter. Like we didn't really know about Ronnie Stanley. He was fully healthy and was awesome. They had a rookie right tackle, Roger Rosengarten, who came into his own. Will be a full time. I guess he was full time starter last year, but he'll probably be even better this year. So I don't know. I'm sure holes will present themselves at some point, but yeah, I think they're the Super Bowl favorite.
Will the holes present themselves until January? Like that's the thing. Like they might not. The holes might not come up until.
Then it's like it's stupid mistakes and
hmm
turnovers and drops and penalties and stuff like that. And I mean, who knew? 2 drop passes last year in the playoff game cost them their season.
Oh yeah.
So
Well, and it's funny.
it's almost like the red flags that we have been waving all season of this Ravens team. They're really, really good. It might be the best team in the NFL, but these stupid mistakes keep costing them. And stupid mistakes cost them playoff games.
They need to
That's
learn.
probably yeah.
I think the hole is that they need to learn how to be down 14. Because if they're up by 14, they're winning the game. They're just running it out with Derrick Henry and Lamar, and they're just suffocating you on defense. And when they get down and it's in the 2-minute drill, like that's where things get hairy, and that's where the mistakes rear their ugly heads. Um,
Yeah.
so if they can just either never be behind or learn how to play behind, there's no reason why they can't win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean it seems simple, but it's a big if when this team has had the same problems for like since Lamar.
I mean, Lamar had 4,000 passing yards, 41 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions.
It didn't win MVP.
Yeah, that was a sham. That was just because they didn't want to give him back to back. That's a LeBron MVP that just didn't happen.
That's
Because he also had 900 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns.
absurd.
I like saying that that's a DEI MVP for Josh Allen. I find that hilarious. Um, anyways, uh, let's go to the other stack team of these two divisions. I wish we ended on the Ravens. I messed that one up by starting with the Browns. But the Lions, same team as last year. No coordinators from last year. And that's really the big question mark here is
Yep.
what does Jared Goff look like without the Ben Johnson system? What does the defense look like without Aaron Glenn? But and the other issue is the issue that they've been having for years. If you look at their go on ESPN and look at their depth chart, it's Q's and zero and O's and IRs all over the place already. So they're already running out of depth. They need to stay healthy. They have all the talent in the world, but can they piece it together with the coordinators? And it's funny because I do think Dan Campbell is a phenomenal head coach. I think he gets underrated by Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn getting the positions that they got, leaving people to think that Campbell is just some nimnut. But I do. I mean, like the offensive line is great. Um, I guess their left guard can be a question mark. Um, their wide
I
receivers are
know.
fantastic, and I
Um,
don't. There's not a ton of holes.
no, there's not. I mean, you can point out holes, but it's the same holes that they had last year when they went 15-2 and were the 1 seed. So like, they still don't really have a second pass rusher.
Yep.
Last year they didn't have their first pass rusher,
Yes.
and they were just fine. So theoretically, you get Aiden Hutchinson for a full season now. So you basically go from Zadarius Smith to Aiden Hutchinson. You have like Marcus Davenport right now is your second the end. So I like maybe upgrade at some point like they did last year. And then you replace who was there? I always mix up the corners. The guy that you guys got.
Carlton Davis.
Yeah. So replace him with DJ Reed,
Mhm.
which I think might even be a net positive. And then you return some of the other guys. So like, yeah, the big question is how good was Ben Johnson at his job?
Yeah.
Because like I don't think he took all of his guys, did he? Like I think they kept whoever the big guy was, Hank Fraley, the running game coach.
I'm not too sure. I just know that they lost 13 coaches, which is a pretty big number. 'Cause
Yeah, I mean, so that probably has an impact.
yes, no, I
Especially the
do think
first.
it definitely should. I mean, it should have an impact. If Ben Johnson's as good as he is, then it should have an impact. Um, it just my hope for the Lions is that Jared Goff is actually a good quarterback and he's not a product of a system because every time we've seen him succeed, it's been with Sean McVay, it's been with Ben Johnson. And yes, he was a young player when he wasn't with those guys, but he looked terrible.
He might be a product of the system.
That's what I'm worried about. That's what I would be worried about.
He might be. But the system is good. Like I'm not so much worried about the system being Ben Johnson. I think the system is Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Jameer Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and David Montgomery. Like that's the system. I feel like I could step in and call Madden plays and we'd win 9 games. You
The
know,
other thing
like
is too,
I don't know how big of a deal the Ben Johnson thing is when you've already established an offense.
I was just
Like
gonna
I feel
say,
like
it's not
he's
like
got to take a Jared Goff and turn him into the top 15 quarterback, and he might do the same thing for Caleb Williams. But like, I mean, these guys have been playing together for 2 years now, and there's no one's questioning like, oh, is Amon-Ra St. Brown not going to be as good because Ben Johnson is gone? Like, no one, I haven't heard anyone say that. So if we're not questioning that, then like, I don't know how big of a fall off there really is. Maybe I'm wrong.
I do
But
think
yeah,
I,
feel
I
pretty
think
good
that
about it.
and to your point, it's not like they're gonna forget how to win football games and forget how to run an offense. Like there should be some guy if I do believe that the guy that they promoted the offensive coordinator was a part of the what's his name?
Uh, John Morton, I think. Or, yeah, John Morton.
He was a part of that system. He
Mhm.
probably has some of the plays that Ben Johnson had. It's not like Ben Johnson like grabbed all his papers and like hustled out of there to go to the Bears. Like
Right.
it's
It's not
still
like it's a like
Mhm.
years.
Yeah, exactly.
Almost.
And they might have gotten one of the steals of the draft in Tesla. We saw him in the we saw him in the preseason game so far, and he's looked good. So he could be if he comes in as the third wide receiver instead of Tim Patrick, which Tim Patrick is a solid third wide receiver as well. They have a couple guys that they can rotate in and keep throwing to. So I do think that this is going to be a good offense. I do think that this is going to be it's going to be a good team, and I think they're going to win. They're going to win a lot of games as long as they stay healthy. These Qs and these Os are scaring me already.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, the only thing with them is like the regression is inevitable.
Yes.
Like they're not going to hang 30, 40 points up every week, and I don't think they would have even if Ben Johnson was still there.
Yep. I completely agree with that. I mean,
It's a hard schedule.
Say again.
I said it's a hard schedule. Like that whole division is going to have a hard schedule because they all play the same teams. And the Lions, bless you, Lions will play the Eagles instead of the other NFC's team, which is not ideal.
Agreed. So we normally do this during as we go through the teams, but I did look up the division odds for everyone. The Browns, who we started out with, plus 3,000 to win the AFC North. Plus 3,500 if you're on FanDuel. The Steelers are plus 500. The Bengals are plus 260, and the Ravens are minus 155, which I think is pretty solid. All of those odds are pretty expected. I do think the Steelers, I mean, they're not going to win the division, but to have them above the Bengals could, I don't know if that, I don't know what that bet looks like, but it might be a solid bet.
Does it have playoffs on there? Or no. Curious what the
No, I
Steelers
just
odds
have
are.
I just have the division odds right here, but I can look up the playoffs.
I can also quickly look that up.
All right, yeah, run with those, and I'll go with the NFC North. Bears are plus 550. The Vikings are plus 290. Packers are plus 240, and then the Lions are plus 155. I think the Lions plus 155 is pretty solid bet. You're getting plus money for a team that I think is. I know they went to the wire against the Vikings last year, but I don't think the Packers are as good as the Vikings were last year, and I don't think the Vikings are going to be as good as the Vikings were last year. So I do think the Lions is a good bet there at plus 155, and because I think they might. It's funny we talked about it being wide open because they're all good. If they are as good as they were last year compared to the other three teams, they're going to run away with this division.
Yep. Yeah, certainly. I do think if you're looking for upside, I think the Vikings at like plus 290 isn't a horrible bet.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Lions are only minus 188 to make the playoffs on FanDuel. The Niners have better odds than that.
That's interesting.
That is very interesting.
What do we got for the?
Still minus hundreds, but
you looking at all of them right now
yeah, Steelers are plus 132
to make the playoffs.
to make the playoffs.
It's funny.
Bengals
An
are
AFC
minus
team would have to really step up to have them not make the playoffs because
Yes.
you're going to go 9-8.
Vikings are plus 102 to make the playoffs.
I don't like that. I don't like that number.
No?
No, not really. What about the Bears?
Bears are plus 180.
Man, those are all low odds for making the playoffs. I guess the NFC is weak.
It's almost 8 teams to make it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that makes sense. AFC's they're probably. I would guess. You already said the Steelers. I'm guessing the Ravens are like minus 300.
Minus 590.
Wow. Yeah,
Bills are minus 100. They have the best odds in the league.
Not surprised. Oh, what about the Bengals and Browns?
No, Bengals were minus 144.
Really? Okay.
Did we not hit? Packers are minus 120.
All right. And then the Browns would be the last one. They got to be a plus number.
Plus 880.
Ooh, okay. All right. I don't like that bet, but you got some juice there at least.
They have, for what it's worth, they have the lowest odds in the NFL.
Okay, that makes sense.
FanDuel would predict the Browns to be the worst team in the league.
Which is definitely possible. It's them and the Saints.
Saints would be the second worst.
Yep. It's them and the Saints. All right.
And the two New York teams follow them.
Oh.
Not too far behind.
Poor Jets.
Actually, the Jets are significant. Jets are plus 520. Giants are plus 790, which is shockingly bad.
That is bad. All right. I think that does it, right? We got nothing else?
Yeah. That was pretty comprehensive, I think.
Yeah. I thought that was good. All right. Thank you all for listening. And we'll see everyone. I'm going to be gone this weekend, so we'll see everyone next week again.